It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Hello and welcome, guys. Trying to find a spot. It's quite a nice day, but it's also quite windy. So I tried to find a little hideaway here when I can have the sun facing my face and not too much wind. There should be, there can definitely be wind here, but it should be a little bit more tucked away from it. Let me know if at some point it's like unbearable with the wind. Right now it seems fine. Like the stream, there were some people waiting here, I saw. You can always like before the stream starts, guys. I have here some mineral water, but this kind, like it's not the original bottle, first of all, but it's this kind with, it's like a certain percentage fruit juice. 14% fruit juice, and it's taste of smultron, which in English I think it's called wild strawberry. It looks like a strawberry, but it's really small and way tastier. But it's a scam also, because it's like 14% fruit juice, smultron taste, wild strawberry taste, and then if you see the ingredients, it's like 2% wild strawberry, and the rest is pear and apple. So I see a few people. Can you like the stream, please, guys? I have a few questions that I collected beforehand, so I can go off with them. But please start talking to me in the chat. I'll say hi to you, and I'll go on to take your other questions. But yeah, okay, there are some people here now. Yeah, let me know if the wind is too much at some point. But okay, which was the first question? I guess the first question was, which is my current split, a training split, that is. And well, my current training split has been the same for over 3 years now. It's, I always liked both push-pull legs and upper-lower, but I could never make up my mind which one do I like the most. And then I realized I can have these two make love and have a beautiful baby, the upper-lower push-pull legs. And then there's also space for a couple of misc days, because upper-lower push-pull legs is of course 5 workouts. But then, so I do it from the start of the week: Monday upper, Tuesday lower, Wednesday rest or a misc day, Thursday push, Friday pull, Saturday legs again, and Sunday rest or misc. But so I never completely rest on schedule. It's yeah, I see more people dropping in. I'm telling you about my split. It was a question I collected beforehand. But yeah, so what you can do on these misc days is you can have, I've made a point that no rest days, just less days. So not less days in total, but days when you do less. And the point is really, it's not that you cannot have a complete rest day, but it's a mindset thing, that even if you rest, it's part of the process. And less days can be just meaning that you don't have to take complete rest though. You can always do something. So what I've done for a long time on my, or when I started doing this, on the misc day, I put calves. I wanted to prioritize calves. So I had 2 calf exercises and abs and neck, yeah. Yes, this is how I started it. Then things have come and went. Like I put calves on the back burner, just 1 exercise at the end of leg day again. But I still have neck on these days. I put like forearms and some extra biceps on one of these misc days. So I love this split. What I love about it is that when I did push-pull legs and upper-lower too, I always got bored of the split after a while. But this one, I never get bored. Because what I like about upper workout is that you get to push and pull in the same workout. But what I like about the push and pull workout is that you get the chance to specialize a bit more on those muscles. And on the upper-lower push-pull legs, you always get both in the same week. And then you have these 2 days that you can either rest completely or put some stuff that you just don't know where else to put in the program. Why? Yoteo, how your day been so far? It's been good. Now it's my last day here. I would possibly have left this island today if I could find a ticket for the right boat, but I couldn't. So I'm gonna leave tomorrow. And so some of my friends have left now, which is always a little like, yeah, it's always more boring. It's like, it's nostalgic in a sense. I remember when I was here as a kid, and when people started to drop off, my family would usually stay longer, and now not just a day longer, like way longer. And it was always a bit like, now the most fun part is over, And so, of course, I don't feel that as strongly now. But yeah, today, what have I done? I had a good leg workout, and I did some dancing. People ask me about cardio. Sometimes I say I don't do any cardio, but I forget that sometimes I put some nice funk music on and I just dance, improvised ugly dance, because I have a lot of fun with it. It's so much more fun to me than running. I get like all sweaty, high heart rate, and I don't even notice because I have so much fun dancing to that. So I did that. Then I just been socializing, hanging out with the people around the house. So thanks for asking why. How's your day been so far? Yeah, so that was the question about the split. Then the next question was favorite row variation. So, always with a guy like me, I always start dissecting the questions like, what do you mean by row? Because it depends. I like to do some kind of wide grip rows when I try to isolate the upper back and rear delts more. But if I am to interpret the question more like a row, like a compound row, because this is, of course, it's a multi-joint movement, but it's going to be a bit more isolated to the upper back and rear delts. So if I interpret the question that way, think if I have to pick two that are slightly different. I like a chest-supported row, like a T-bar row, but with a chest support, because it's just the one you can go the heaviest on and spare your lower back, which you sometimes have to do. The lower back is one of those muscles that it's more, unless you're like a power lifter or something, you're talking a bodybuilder and you're going to train almost every day. It's more about how do I not overwork the lower back, because it's going to be involved in so many things. So on a pull day that comes close to a leg day, I really like, for my favorite row, a good chest supported row, like a T-bar row variation would be something I really like. But if we're going to take an even more compoundish row, I think I have to say that the seated row with a narrow grip wins for me. I really like barbell rows too. It's just a Chad exercise. Feels really good and cool to do. But I think the seated row with a narrow grip, you can lean into a good stretch on almost the entire back, or pretty much the entire back, and then lean back a little bit, pull like that, close the body, and you can start. It's easy to start a bit stricter and then start using your legs a bit more and yank the weight a little bit more to get a few extra reps. So that would be a favorite. I saw that I got another question, but I have a few more to work through of pre-collected questions. So like the stream if you haven't, guys, and keep the questions coming, because I'll just, I have a good amount. I have 2 hours, maybe more, before I have to go eat dinner with the other people. And I'd love to be here the entire time, because honestly, from this point, I don't have much more going on today. I mean, I can always hang out, but there's nothing I have to do other than go eat dinner later. Oh yeah, someone asked, what do I prioritize any muscle group at the moment, like me personally? So not really. During the summer is a bit of a maintenance period for me either way. So especially during the summer, it's maintenance mode when it comes to strength and muscle, and it's more about, it's not even muscles. It's like in the summer, I like to do feel-good workouts, like train outside as much as possible if there are nice days. But also, I've been working on the muscle up, which I've really made big leaps forward with this summer. But of course, that's not one muscle or anything. It's more of an exercise that I focus on, and more like skill goals. In the hi Chad, Totally Frozen says, what's up, Totally Frozen? I'll get to other questions in the chat in a bit. Like the stream if you haven't. No, but for me, what I will always train everything, but now legs. I really, even though it took me so long, years, to recover my hips, I could have, if I went with something like a leg press that I always talk shit about, I could have blown up my legs that way. But I really, I have these goals that I am a bodybuilder, but I want it to be built in a certain way, like for instance through free weighted squat variations. So now finally, when it's a lot better, and I can actually grow my legs from those kinds of exercises. My legs have grown a bit, but I definitely have more to do there, more on the table. So the legs and specifically quads will be a big focus when I start, pushing food and progress more. And then just arms. It's my arms, I've really managed to bring them up a lot, but from pure measurements, if you look at my body weight and my leanness and height and everything, and compare me to other advanced naturals, my arms aren't that big. So arms definitely will still be a priority. But other than that, it's like legs. It's like legs, mainly quads, and the entire arm. That would be muscle groups I focus more on. And the last one wasn't even a question. It was a guy that just said, like a guy I like, a Greek guy. I don't remember his name, but he said, no questions, just looking jacked. Let's get these fake Natty gains. Because of course we have this 100% natural stream. So he was funny in that way. I gave him a little laugh, cry emoji and a heart. But okay, let's see what's up in the chat. Jaser, what's your opinion on alcohol and its effect on mental and physical health? I think it's really bad for both. You know, I never, as I keep repeating, I don't have a black and white. Please keep talking to me though, guys, because I'm not gonna stay here if we don't have a conversation two ways. But yeah, you know, I'm not black and white about anything, and I always say that there are some people that will, in their personal balance, they will include a bit more alcohol than I personally would, and I still cannot say that it's like bad or too much or anything. It's also a bit of personal preference and priorities, right? However, if someone drank the way I used to do, for instance, and said that it's worth it very much, I would say that you're lying to yourself and you're coping, and it's definitely terrible for you. But that's not to say that the way I do it with alcohol now, it's the one and only way. But I must say that I think alcohol is one of the drugs with the worst return on investment, like for the effect you get. That personally, I can drink so little and still feel like an effect, not be hungover, like, oh, I'm completely hungover. But you know, this, just a bit more tired, maybe a little off in my gut, maybe a slight hint of anxiety in the back of my spine, you know. So I just think it is very harmful. You know, if you look on the paper, just the effects it has, it's not good. And so, but that will especially be with larger quantities and higher frequency of drinking. And I'll say this, that when I went through the panic attack phase, you know, at the start, I would still take some moments to, you know, try to escape the way we do, reach for a pain relief, right? And of course, when you're anxious, alcohol is not good, but, you know, it helps with like that kind of, yeah, with, you know, if you're all anxious, it turns that down. It's a depressant, right? But I had to pay since I was already feeling like crap every day, I had to pay such a high price. Like I said it on a stream recently, I think, that if I was hungover, like the quest for the day was pretty much like getting through the day without killing myself, you know. So I think it's terrible for physical and mental health. I now, on this trip, what have I drank? No beers. I actually, on one of the golf rounds, I had a whiskey, like in the middle of the round, but it's more like a biohack, you know, that's my thing. I want to say this too, I can make so many points around this, that pleasure for the sake of pleasure is not always wrong, but it has to be honest. It has, you know, that you choose sometimes to indulge in something, that is fine, that is part of life. I think you're too unbalanced if you never do that with anything. We can do different choices with that, but yeah, the point being still that I like to, alcohol in this case, it was like, I felt a little like, my last golf round wasn't great, and I felt a little like tense in my body, and so I really have the whiskey there in the middle of the round, like just a small whiskey, like 5 centiliters, at the clubhouse, not because I crave alcohol so much or I feel like having a whiskey so much. It's more like it's a supplement, you know, like, just give me a little like release of tension in the body. And other than that, I had a small, even smaller whiskey just in the evening, sitting down by the bridge and like sipping on this for a long time. So you see, I have some alcohol, but for me the sweet spot for alcohol is like very, very small quantities. I guess the exception I would do is like if someone is getting married or something, I'm sure I would drink a little bit more. But still nowhere near the way I used to do it. Let's see, good. Have one more question, but please keep it coming, guys. It's a slow starter, this stream. You know, I'll say this, I always feel like it's like this when I start doing lives, that they're way more popular always when I bring them back. And then people like start watching them afterwards or something. And that's not gonna cut it, guys. It's like, I like being here, but I need to have you guys involved too. You are co-creators of these streams. Phone B. For each exercise, how always the question about the books. I sleep. Like, I get it, but I feel like I always say, like, I don't really read, but we'll get to that. Phone B. For each exercise, how many sets do you usually do for each? You go to failure on all, most, and or some. So my standard for a long time has been 3 sets per exercise, but I've really started to cut that down. Even like now during summer, like for instance, I did an upper body workout yesterday, and then I did just 1 to 2 sets per exercise. And that's slightly lower than I would probably do on most workouts when I like train for real, you know, when I'm pushing progress. But I still cut it down. I used to have 3 sets per exercise, but I realized that, you know, I'm one of you that's tended to actually do too much. Like, if not overtraining, it's just not necessary, really. So now, it depends on the exercise, but I take pretty much all my sets to failure or 0 reps in reserve. Like, that, to me, it's the same. That I know my body so well and what it feels like from going to failure so much now, that if I know that I grinded out 1 rep and I'm just not gonna get 1 more, I'm probably not even gonna go for that, like, official fail rep. But with few exceptions, I take the sets to failure or 0 reps in reserve. The exceptions would be something like deadlifts and squats, but it's still very close. Because especially on a squat, you know, defining what failure is a little difficult, because many times if you start doing rest passes, just a few extra seconds, you would gain reps, while if you know, let's say I come to a point where if I was fast to do the next rep, I'd fail. But if I just take a few reps, a few seconds, I maybe get 3 more. So I think on an exercise like a squat, it's a little bit more difficult to determine what actually is failure. So on an exercise like a squat, I will just keep the intensity high and then make sure that I progress between workouts. But on almost anything else, I take all my sets to failure or 0 reps in reserve. Usually the last set beyond failure in one way or another. Also, again, with exceptions, it depends on the exercise. But, you know, some kind of drop set or mechanical drop set. You know, like for instance, just an incline dumbbell press or a flat dumbbell. It's just I never do it really. But after my last set, I grind out like last rep. I will drop 1 dumbbell and rep out a few extra ones like this. And you know, let's say a triceps, a lying extension. I might, you know, when I can't extend like this anymore, I might use my lats to get in here and push it up and control negatives, get extra negatives. So I'm really a fan of high intensity. But I'll say this, on an exercise like a deadlift or Romanian deadlift, I might just have 1 top set, because I feel like I can get sore in my lower back from just 1 intense set. And that's something I think starts to happen when you're strong enough, when you move enough weight with good form. Like if you push it to failure or 0 reps in reserve, I don't really fail a deadlift. I will like grind out that last one. I can get sore from 1 set like that. But then on most other things, 2 or 3 sets. Yeah. Like the stream if you haven't. Count S says tjenare, tjenare, tjenare. Ice Slipper says you seem like a philosophical guy. Yeah, but that's because he asked about any favorite read. The thing is, yeah, but my, you know, I have a if you search philosophy on my channel, on the Uncommon Sense channel, I don't remember the exact title, but I'm sure philosophy is in the title. Like the stream, guys. Like, I see you watching. Please like. It helps. You know, I make the point that philosophy is not just sitting and reading and talking about shit. Philosophy, you need to embody your philosophy. You need to live your philosophy. And so I'm really big on taking action. I'm really big on getting my ideas through experience and through interacting with other people. And so, of course, I have read books, and of course I watch content, I listen to podcasts, you know, that kind of thing. But I'm so big on, that's the entire thing with Uncommon Sense. I found that so much I can learn from just my observing, by being introspective, observing my inner self, you know, observing what's going on, the outcomes I get from different things I do, talking to people, coaching people, working with people, seeing what happens with them, right? So I am a philosophical guy, but to me, some people that claim to be into philosophy, they just love reading shit and that. And I'm not saying that's wrong, again, just like with alcohol, I'm not saying that the amount of reading I do is the right amount, but for me personally, it's just that lots of reading seems like a waste of time for me, because I've learned and grown so much during these years of Uncommon Sense without really reading many books at all. A few. Like the latest book, but I will tell you something. The last book I read was Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and I love that one. But you know, when I read it, I'm like, this that I read, I'm gonna keep it in mind when I do this. Or these patterns Marcus Aurelius are talking about in nature, and I'm gonna look for more things of those, right? So I'm very much about not just sitting and talking and thinking and reading shit, but actually embodying, doing it yourself. You know, that's the last point I'll make about this for now. Lots of people, they put books on a pedestal. Again, I don't want to make it seem like I think it's bad to read, but it's almost like, oh, you have to read though. Oh, you gotta read though. And like, but the guys that wrote the first books though, there were no books around for them to read. How did they manage, right? It's like, what's in the book? The book is just, it came from a person, right? It's just put down in writing. There's nothing magical about it being in writing. But of course, you can learn from books as well. Tyson Bell. Interesting. Going to a wedding today. Haven't drank since before I quit weed 2 weeks ago. I'm feeling great. I've been considering not drinking or having very little tonight. I mean, that's up to you, man. It depends on where you are in your journey. I've gone to many parties and stuff where people drink, and I don't drink even a drop, you know. But, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. And so, like for instance, this years ago now, when my cousin got married, then I drank more than I had in years, and it's probably still the time I drank the most. But if I recall correctly, I drank like 6 units of alcohol. It was like a couple of glasses or 3 of champagne, you know, but they're small, right? A couple of glasses of wine with dinner, and I think a couple of whiskeys later, and that was it. And so, if it was earlier on my journey, I probably wouldn't have drank then, but this was like 3 or 4 years into it. So it's like, it's up to you to decide where you're at with a thing like that. It's something I preach in general when you change lifestyle and habits, that be really rigid about something. It's like me and diet, you know. I didn't even fucking touch candy or chips and stuff for so long. And chips I still don't really eat. But now I've noticed that, hey, I built such a solid foundation. There's just no risk. Like, I don't want to eat the super processed stuff anyway, but having some sweets, having some cake or something, I have such high metabolism, I will not replace all my food with that shit. I will still eat a healthy foundation, then have some of that stuff around it, and it works great. But it works great because I built this ability to not have to eat any of that at all. So you see, I often think earlier on, it's good to be very strict with something. It's like with fasting, intermittent fasting. If you're getting into it, be really rigid with that eating window. And then later, you can be flexible. Because it's like me, I don't really follow an 8-hour eating window like 16-8 every day now. But it's always the structure, the way I think of how I structure my food. That foundation of an 8-hour eating window with 3 meals in it is always there, right? So I'm big on that. You're gonna see, I'm gonna release in August. We'll see how quickly I can do it after I get home. But I'm gonna release a like habit building course called The Consistent King. And this is really the thing. I give you like a routine, an entire regimen with everything, diet, training, sleep, and some other things in there. And I give you like lessons, like lectures about useful things to know about this. But the point is really, if you can follow the Consistent King course for something like 3 months, you'll be very fucking solid with a lot of things. And now you can start tweaking things around. Please keep it coming, guys. I see you here watching. Keep talking to me, or else I'll leave you. Nugget, pronator strength goals for before. Strength goals, I mean goals. Are you asking Are you asking like what numbers you should reach to have beefy forearms? I mean, it's just one. So the thing, what I like about the pronator, in my view, this area, like the upper side of the forearm, is easier to build. You know, the brachioradialis, you're gonna get a lot of indirect work on from curls and pulls, and it's also a little bit genetic. Me, who doesn't have the best upper arm genetics, I've noticed that my brachioradialis really gets a lot of work from different curls and rows, pulls. But so I think in general for most people it's this side of the forearm that's more difficult. And of course we have the wrist curl, easy for that. But then the pronator muscle, it's called like pronator teres, I think. It sits here also. So you know, it's not just pronation is the point. But I mean, what am I up to now? I have this pronator from Golden Grip, right? By the way, 10% off on Golden Grips, all their really good stuff with the code uncommon. But I started with just 5 kilos or something, doing slightly higher reps at the start, but I had to progress it up to like 20 reps, I remember. And now I've done with like 16 kilos, up to like 12 reps or something. So that's quite a big progression. And in my view, I'm not thinking that I have so big forearms, but people in real life, people comment that I have big forearms quite a bit. So I guess, you know, you get blind to that stuff yourself. I'm also used to thinking I have so small wrists and hands, so I'm not thinking that my forearms are so big. But yeah, I mean, a goal. I mean, if you can have like 12 kilos and do over 10 reps, I'm sure, like good pronation reps like this, I'm sure you're gonna see a difference in your forearm here. Morning coach, I wish for wings says morning, I wish for wings. Good to see some people show up here. Like the stream if you haven't. Keep the chats coming. Maybe send a super chat if you enjoy this stream. Eye slipper, I'm not trying to grill you, I'm just curious. I've had this question in the back of my mind and would be interesting to ask you. Do you think it's more valuable to be strong or smart? No, I mean, you don't. I don't feel grilled by anything here. You know, if I think a question is like stupid or have malicious intent, I'm just gonna go off on you. You know, so. Since I am quite blunt and straightforward, I'm happy to get questions like that, and I don't even think that sounds like a, you know, grilling kind of question. But I appreciate what's the word I'm looking for? Gentleness there. Strong or smart? I mean, what I think is best or more valuable. Was that what you said? Yeah, more valuable. I mean, it's contextual, right? First of all, I think they often can go hand in hand. Not always, but like I said, they mustn't go. It's not that they must always go hand in hand. But if you look at all the best natural bodybuilders, I think all of them are really smart, right? Jeffrey Bertie Schofield, extremely introspective and like analytical guy. Bald Omni-Man, really smart guy, insightful guy, deep guy, you know. Alex Leonidas, I hear him mostly talk about training, but he's definitely smart about it, right? Natural hypertrophy, philosophical guy. I mean, so I think they often, let's put it this way, when it comes to that kind of strength, I often think you need to be quite smart. Unless you're like very genetically gifted, or you're at least smart enough to get help from the right people. But so what I think is most valuable, I think it depends on the context. I mean, in certain situations, you just wouldn't have too much use for being so smart. If it's like a more, I don't know, primitive situation or something. And it would be helpful to just be strong and brute force through things and not have to think and analyze things so much. So it's one of those questions that I think I cannot say like an answer that, well, I think this is more valuable. I mean, ideally both, always. I think being smart helps with getting strong, but not necessarily the other way around, right? Interesting. It's interesting to think about. It also depends on what you mean by strong, because now when I think of strong, it's not just, I just took the example with natural bodybuilders, but I think strength is not only about muscle and brute strength, physical strength, also being strong, you know, carrying yourself well going about life when you face adversity and stuff. Yeah, it's a tough one. Because smart people also struggle with things. They're too smart sometimes, right? No, but that's some thoughts around it. And when you say I'm not trying to grill you, it's like, do you imply that I'm not smart? I'm just strong? Or what's the point? Carmen Rodriguez, OG, that only shows up on the live streams, but good to see you. When you coach people, do you find that they struggle more with diet or exercise? Well, generally, there are both, of course, but generally, I rarely see someone adhere to a diet perfectly and have troubles with going to the gym. It's generally the diet. A lot of people, they can go to the gym and hit the workout, but staying on point of the diet is more difficult. Because of course, you can have an addiction to sort of being like comfortable and lazy, like, oh, why? I'm usually now, I wouldn't have to go to the gym and train, and I'm so cozy, comfortable here. Like, it's a sort of addiction in that sense, right? To have to go against that, it can be difficult for some. But generally, the diet part is where people have way more like addictive behaviors, patterns that are harder to break. So most definitely, people struggle with both. There are also people, like very, very black and white perfectionist people. You know, it's like if they hit the workout, they're gonna eat well too. But if they slip on the workout, now they're also gonna slip on the diet. Or if they slipped on the diet, they're not gonna go train because they judge themselves so harshly and just go completely 180 in another direction. But generally, definitely diet. Never seen a person that adheres to a good diet and doesn't train. I mean, I'm sure those people exist because there are a lot of like health interested people that just really like the things. Because if you don't have addictive behaviors with diet, it's easier, right? All you have to do is go and buy food and cook it and eat it. It's like it's not so tough to do if you don't have any addiction to anything else. While pushing yourself in the gym is more difficult. So these people, it's just not the common person that I coach, but I definitely seen those people. I would say generally across the board, diet way harder because that's where people have more addictive behaviors. Phone B. For food, I've heard protein is obviously important, but do you find it necessary that you need large amounts to build muscle properly? What about carbs and fats? How much do you usually intake, reduce, increase, etc.? So protein is very important, but it's like if you get enough protein, let's put it this way, unless you like drastically undereat protein, that you don't eat protein, like enough protein, unless it's drastic, it's never going to be that like, oh, this is why you're not making gains. You're not eating enough protein. Eating enough in total is most important. But then, of course, I see it as it's low-hanging fruit. When we know quite clearly from the science, you know, that about 2 grams per kilo body weight or 1 gram per pound, somewhere around there, is like ideal, and you don't really get all that much more out of it. Maybe something, but there, it's like, why not just go for that? It's like, it's low-hanging fruit. That being said, I know you could eat like half of that. If you eat enough in total and you crush your workouts and progressively overload, still gonna build muscle. But if you're gonna build a bit more by eating more protein, like why not do it? So I think I talk about I do this in my course too, right? That protein focus is essential to have. That when you have a meal, like the central thing should be like, what's the protein source? Am I getting a good amount of protein from this meal? Yeah. And if you have that thinking, you're probably going to end up eating at least, you know, depending on how big you are, right? How much you eat in general. You're probably going to end up with, depending on who you are again, at least 120 to 180 grams of protein. And then if you just have a bit more awareness, like have a protein shake or some extra protein on the side, you're gonna get up to what is like the ideal amount. When it comes to carbs and fats, I think the more fat you have on your body, honestly, the less fat you probably need to eat. Because you need some dietary fat, but you know, you're gonna be able to, if you're in a deficit cutting, I mean, you're eating off of your own body fat as well. So what I usually aim for, if we say maintenance now, I would usually aim for having like 20 to 30% of my total calories from fat. I would like to have, in my case, 200 grams of protein. That's a bit more than a couple of grams per kilo, and the rest from carbs. Like, that's also my thing. The more carbs you can get while not going too low on protein or fat, the better, because carbs are king for performance. So, but I say also, like, some overweight people that are like borderline diabetic, they maybe should stay away from the carbs still. It's like, it's a little unique. It's not entirely exactly the same for everyone. But yeah, there you have some thoughts around that. Protein is very important, but it's never going to be the make or break. Like, oh, it's because you're not eating enough protein, unless it's like extreme. It's never going to be the reason you're not making gains. The training and total amount of calories is always most important then. Have some more people like the stream if you haven't. Why says, how do you feel about burpees? So I like burpees. It's quite intense. The only issue I have with them is that if you're, I did a bunch, last summer it was a thing. Like, I would do many burpees, many times before a live stream. If I felt a little like, off, I would do 10 sets of 10 burpees to just get, put myself in a positive mental attitude, turn on the sympathetic nervous system, be a little bit more on, right? The only issue I have with burpees is that if you're someone that does hypertrophy training on a high frequency and high intensity, that impact when you get down and do the push-up, like, it's gonna impede the shoulder recovery just a little bit. So in that case, if you can do some kind of variation when you don't get this, like, that you catch yourself in the push-up, it's called something. There is a variation of burpees that has a name. When you just like go, you do the burpee movement, but you go slower, like more carefully into that position. No, but I love burpees. It's like, it's high intensity cardio. It's really full body cardio. And apart from the recovery factor, I think it's a really good complement for someone that's doing the hypertrophy style training. It's just that you have to do if you're gonna do it frequently, you have to do some kind of spin on it, so you don't get this like impact all the time. But I love burpees. Since I'm a high intensity guy in general, I do like that. Jaser, you say you do reps to failure. Have you tried the drop sets? I suppose you don't like them if you don't do them. I don't know where you got that. I'm pretty sure I said that I do some kind of intensity techniques at the end of many sets. Sometimes that is, like just today, okay, I did a leg workout today. I started with leg curls. Then I do my third set, and it was like 8 to 9 reps per set. Like, it's a leg curl machine I'm not used to. On the last set, I do a double drop set. So I get like 3 or 4 extra reps per drop. And then I did front squats, which I don't do any intensity technique on. Compounds like that, especially lower body compounds. But then, I did some hyperextensions where I didn't really do any drop either. I could sometimes have the weight on my back. I could drop it and rep out, but it's too big of a drop. So I would rather do like partial reps then often, right? That's a sort of drop set, It's a mechanical drop set. But then I did leg extensions, and I did the same thing. The last set, double drop set. I did calf raises on one leg at a time, holding a 12 kilo kettlebell, and on the last set, I dropped the kettlebell and repped out, and then I rep out partial reps after that. So you see, I almost always do some kind of drop set, with a few exceptions. I do that on everything. It's just that what I've thought about some exercises is that even, I prefer many times if it can be some kind of mechanical drop set, because I feel like let's say like a curl. I did this yesterday too. I did just the easy bar curls, and on the last strict rep, on the last set, I start putting a bit of hip thrust into it to get up and control the negative. And what I feel is that kind of drop, you're still putting the same tension, it's the same weight. And I think in certain exercises, I think it works really well with like leg extensions, for instance. But sometimes, like, a tricep push down, I do that, but it's just because I like it. But I feel sometimes in a cable tricep push down, it's like, is this even putting any pure tension on the muscle? This is just some very, very pure metabolic burnout. And I'm just not sure that, that does something. You see, I do some kind of drop set. I drop the weight on the exercises where I feel like it's still efficient. I do it many times just for the mindset, you know, and for the, yeah, I did that video yesterday, get comfortable being uncomfortable, just for the anti-fragility, for the stress resilience, for the ability to push yourself through discomfort. But when possible, I prefer some kind of mechanical drop. But yeah, I love drop sets. I love intensity, man. Julian Bernie. Hey, what's good, man? What's good, brother? Like the stream if you haven't, guys. Maybe send a super chat if you appreciate the stream. It's a bit of a cloud here. I hope it will go away. It's not going to rain or anything, but you know, the sun is always nice to have. Jack, I tried to quit nicotine so many times, yet I keep going back to it. I keep indulging myself with it. Can you give me advice on quitting or cut it back? So what form of nicotine do you use? I mean, this is what I did. I'll say that what I say about addictions is that how to quit or reduce addictions. There are two things that need to happen. Either the pain that you're escaping, or like what you're using it for. Like I always say pain, but I always say this too, it's an inclusive word. You know, it can be boredom, right? Also. But if the pain that you, or whatever it is, that you're using this to mitigate, if that gets lower, sometimes even the need for whatever the addiction is goes down. But also, when you become conscious, consciousness is essential to change in general, right? And consciousness just meaning awareness, being aware of something. And so, I had this big caffeine and nicotine habit from coffee and snus nicotine pouches, right? And I just, first of all, I felt I've improved my lifestyle so much, and I couldn't really see that this was so harmful, even though I knew it wasn't ideal. I also didn't like the fact I felt so dependent on it, right? But so I did many times this sort of dopamine fast when I take away food, sometimes water even, but also nicotine and caffeine. And then when I came back to it, it was always easier to use less. But since I didn't really see the point of reducing it, I always, when I just got stressed and started autopiloting through life, I would just gradually get back to my former consumption. Then last year, about a year ago now, I started noticing that sometimes when I had this like weird anxiety or stress feeling that wasn't really connected to anything specific, I started to see that, hey, it is sometimes when I've overindulged in these substances and I don't like the way I'm feeling from this. So now, suddenly, you see what I mean? I became conscious, I became aware that, when I feel like this that I don't like, it actually has to do with this. So now I have some kind of clear motivation, other than like a vague I should quit is usually not enough, right? But so I planned that I'm gonna do this sort of dopamine fast at the end of the year, and then I'm gonna go way down in my consumption, and that's what I've done now. I've reduced, like, both coffee. For me, the caffeine is almost like a chaser for the nicotine, because I quit for some months once the snus, and then I didn't drink coffee either, right? It's like when I have the one, I want to have both. So pretty much I've reduced. I have one of these, we call them dosa. I used to consume one entire dosa per day. It's 24 in one. Now I put the cap on 6. I'm on my 5th now. After dinner, I'm gonna have the last one for the day. And that's really working for me. And I also started noticing that sometimes in the summer, when I have harder time sleeping, even though I would put the cap on caffeine by lunch, just the sheer amount I'd consumed clearly impeded with my sleep in a way I wasn't aware of, because now I generally have an easier time sleeping, going to sleep, even in the summer. So, you know, all this talk to just like, I'm not sure yet how you use it or, you know, anything like that, but you have to try to really look for like, what is the cost for me? What are the side effects that I get from this that I don't like? Because then you're gonna have a clear motivation to quit, other than like, oh, I should, right? And then the final point is that we don't have to quit everything completely. Like, I think now, I said it on a stream recently too, I think I could quit these completely, but I just like them, and I feel like I've tamed the addiction, that I've really done it this time, kept it at this level for the entire year, and I feel like I'm gonna keep doing that. Then we'll see if I feel differently in the future, but I'm happy with this improvement for now. Hopefully there was something useful for you in there. Like the stream if you haven't, guys. Maybe send a super chat if you appreciate these streams. Count S. If you're doing several prolonged fasts in, say, 3 weeks, how much protein would you aim for in the feeding window, both each meal and through the day? I don't really see the connection to the prolonged fast in 3 weeks, because the thing about protein, because some other guy once asked me, like, if because I have some routines with a weekly fast, and you could do the fast every other week too, but because like my recommendation is generally like don't do more. Exception would be if you're someone that's really overweight, and it's just like a big priority to lose the weight no matter what, right? But I would generally not recommend doing more than a 60-hour or like up to 72-hour fast per week. So you at least get some days to let the body relax and recover before you go into the next fast. And someone once asked then, like, or said that he like ate like an extreme amount of protein on these other days, like to compensate, and he was like thinking of the protein intake on a weekly basis. On the one hand, I like the idea, I like the thinking, because when it comes to something like a calorie deficit, it doesn't really matter if you're on a 500 calorie deficit on each day, right? It matters, are we in a deficit long term? I could eat in a 200 calorie deficit today, but 1,000 tomorrow, like you see what I mean? But with protein, it's different because we don't store protein, right? So like overcompensating with protein is just not going to work. That's why in the studies, right, that there is a cap on the amount of protein that's beneficial per day, and I'm pretty sure that that's not going to change when you fast, because the body can only use so much protein to build different kinds of lean tissue. So you see what I mean? The point here is that if you're doing prolonged fasts, the goal of how much protein you should eat when you eat is just the same as when you're not fasting, because you're not going to store the protein, you're not going to be able to use more just because you fasted. I'm speculating, right? It makes sense to me that that's how it is. Because protein, the difference between fat we store like on the belly and on the body, right? Carbs we store in the liver and in the muscles, but protein, it just circulates as amino acids in the bloodstream after you've eaten it until it's gone. So same thing goes, like generally 30 to 60 grams of protein per meal depending on your eating frequency, 2 grams per kilo, 1 gram per pound of body weight in total on a day. That's like my recommendation. It's not gonna change just because you do more fasting. Van Bard, have you tracked how much muscle weight you've gained each year of your lifting journey? Have you had surprising years through which you gained much more than what would reasonably be expected? So I haven't tracked that. I mean, no, I've never tracked it. Like, guys, I'm like people. Some things it's like people want to specific things on. I don't mean just by me in general. Like they want to know how much muscle did I gain this year or something. Personally, I don't really care. I just care that I'm making progress. If I'm making progress, it's good, right? So I never tracked it. I would be guessing if I said something. Surprising. Has anything been surprising? I mean, not really. Like the different times when I've had to like think about it was that when I got into fasting, a little less than 1.5 years into everything in total, I fasted so much that I didn't really make some muscle gains for a few months. And then it wasn't really surprising, it was just more confirmation. When I started eating more, or like not doing so much fasting, I started gaining more again. It wasn't a surprise, it was more like, okay, that was definitely it. I was fasting too frequently to make progress. And then, I mean, if anything is surprising, it's not really surprising when you think of it, but it's been that I've still made good progress these last years, even though maybe it is like just a kilo of muscle this last year, I'm not sure. But it's because it's like, even though things slow down in a sense, it's like you get more dialed into your process. So you still like, you're somehow more steady and consistent. I'm trying to remember now. I know that can it be between like year 3 and 4 that I'm like surprising that it feels like I made more gains between year 3 and 4 than 2 and 3, but I can't say any specific numbers. I just felt like, wow, it's like the difference now between these years, like what I see is bigger than I saw before. But it's again, I think it was because it's somewhere right around after year 3. I feel like, of course, I've learned and improved on things, but that's when like I felt like really solid. Like from this point, I really know what I'm doing. I don't have any doubts that I can make gains. So yeah, that would be that. Let's see here. Ice slipper. Nah, I only said grilling because I'm asking some random questions in here. I mean, you can ask whatever you want. I always like, it's great that you ask me about these training things and diet and fasting things because I obviously know about those things. But Uncommon Sense is bigger. You can ask me about like mental health or social things, like girls, relationships, and anything. Or anything you're just curious about me. It's like, I think it's fun to share anything and tell stories and whatever. So don't feel like any topic is off limits. I mean, unless you like go out of your way to find something that I probably don't want to talk about. Yeah. Like, when you were watching Corn back in the day, what was your favorite kind or something? It's like, we're not going to talk about that kind of thing. I didn't watch anything crazy just because I mentioned that, but I tried to come up with something that I don't want to talk about. Jacer. First, gains, brains and everything. Do you count your protein? So not really. That's the thing. If you have that, we talked some about protein earlier in the stream. And the thing is, if you have enough protein awareness, you're just not going to have to really. It's like now, today. So what I do here, because I can get really good eggs on this island, I do this. This is something I've become more flexible with, like intermittent fasting. The first thing in the morning, I will have something like some kind of juice with collagen, just to get something small. It's like probably 20 grams of carbs and 20 grams of collagen. So, 160 calories. That would be if it's exactly that. So there we have 20 grams. Then afterwards, I will eat eggs. I had 6 eggs. I had some cottage cheese. I probably get up to like 50 grams of protein there. Then if I haven't fixed any other, I have some vegetables and stuff here too, but mentioning the protein stuff, and other carbs. But then if I haven't gotten any other plan for lunch, because I have a bunch of good eggs, I'll just eat the same again, So now I'm already up to 120 grams of protein. I'm gonna go eat dinner in a restaurant today because it's like the last evening when a lot of people are here. Just from what I recall, I can get off that menu with some meat. I probably get another 60 grams of protein in that meal. And then I will have a small yogurt. It's my last meal when I'm at home, this protein yogurt with a bunch of whey in it. But here, since I eat dinner with other people, I don't have that. But I will have some like quark, that's like, probably I have like 25 grams of protein there. And see, now if we do the math, I'm gonna be like around 200 grams of protein. I counted it with you now, but I don't really count it actually because I'm so used to living this way that I just know that I'm gonna hit my protein, and if I'm gonna know if I haven't without like counting it to a T. So you see, this is what I preach a lot in general. Be very strict and rigid with things before you can be flexible. And when you've started, I always say that with a thing like counting calories or protein, it's good to do earlier because you create this awareness, this consciousness that I talk about. And now suddenly I hit it, I'm aware of it without actively going and like, oh, how many grams? I would just know, right? It's like when, let's say the last thing, when I go out on a golf course, I'd also, because we're not going to have a proper lunch there, I've like counted that, okay, I'm going to eat some kind of egg sandwich that they have there when I get in. I'll bring some cottage cheese, I had a cinnamon bun from a girl I was playing with. Yeah, you know, I always have a plan for the protein, but I don't really have to count it to a T, because I just know. Like the stream if you haven't. Maybe support the channel with a super chat if you're enjoying these streams. Jacer, I've noticed that with regular exercise, I have reverse cravings for unhealthy food. I feel like I'm putting junk food in my body. It's like refilling your diesel car with gasoline. It's still fuel, but not what your body is craving. Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, this is the beautiful thing. The good thing with having done things wrong, like either with having some kind of pain or just having done things wrong. I say like wrong, you know. I mean, it's up to everyone what they want to do, of course. But when you see the contrast, it's like now, like I say, I can indulge in some things, like a bit of cake and stuff, but just throwing my diet out completely and start eating junk, that's like, okay, for something that I don't even think tastes so good anymore, I'm just supposed to ruin my good health, the way I feel great all the time. I would just ruin that? No, I don't think so, because I remember how I used to feel when I ate poorly and drank way too much alcohol and stuff. So that's the good thing with having the contrast experience. But then it's also people, we are funny like that we tend to create momentum in different directions. That's what I talked about earlier on the stream too, that if you hit the workout, you're more likely to also go eat a healthy meal, while if you skip the workout, it's like, meh, you know, oh, I did it again, oh, I guess I'll just have pizza and just numb myself out, you know. So yeah, it makes sense to me. Phone B, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've heard you don't use sunscreen. How long would you stay out in the sun on, say, extremely bright days, no clouds, high noon? If no sunscreen, do you have a better alternative? So, yeah, you know, actually, I bragged pretty much about how I don't get burnt in Sweden anymore. On this golf round, my nose got just a wee bit burnt. It just was a wee bit sensitive in the evening. Because we were out all day, it was a nice day like this, and it was like the sweet spot. Like we started at like 10:30, and then a golf round in that setting takes like 5 hours. So it's really like isolating the most you know, high UV period of the day and being out all day. So then I actually got a little bit burnt on the nose, and actually I just forgot, on a day like that I would have put just literally just on the nose, because I never use any. That's what I would have done. It's kind of funny that I forgot it, but I was right. It was on that day. I actually felt a bit on the nose. But you know, what I recommend, I don't have a specific recommendation for any sort of sunscreen, but I'm sure there are many good, like tallow-based, stuff like that, you know, some kind of natural oil instead. But other than that, I mean, I cannot say a general recommendation because it's going to be different in different countries. You know, here in Sweden, it's easier to get away with it if you have a good foundational tan and eat a good healthy diet, right? Then, you know, then in places further down south, closer to the equator. So I wouldn't want to say something specific about a time, but what I say is like, be strategic. It's like this, just like how you watch your training, your diet, and see how you keep track of things and see you respond. It's like, notice, like, how long were you out? At what time, you know? How did you handle that, right? And then if you're pale now, you progressively overload, as with everything. You increase exposure gradually, and then other than finding some alternatives that I don't have anything specific to recommend, you know, you can just be strategic. Just be in the shade when you have to. Use clothing, use a hat, right, to cover the face after a while. But use, like, you know, what is it? Is it linen clothing? You know, like light clothing, but it can still like cover you up. So yeah, those would be some advice. That would be some advice around the sun. Gain sprays and everything. For someone who is a beginner and not doing the max volume they can handle, but are doing a basic 3 days full body, how would you recommend them to advance when it's time for them to add volume? Add volume. It's like, I mean, the three full body per week is very good, and you can get very far. And I'm sure even me, if I kept the workouts quite lengthy, I'm sure I could make progress on that as well. But it's like, At some point, I'd like you to probably move on to training a bit more often. How, it's like, I mean, an upper lower twice per week could be good. Some kind of push pull legs with this rotation that I talk about. Even if you do like 4 workouts or 5 per week, instead of doing twice of each and doing 6 workouts, you could have this rotational system. But it's like it's a bit too wide of a question, because I have to know like how much time are you willing to spend in the gym? What is your goal here, right? So yeah, I mean, if I try to think back to how I started, I was training at home, and I was training like probably every other day on average in the end, having like a workout A and B, with with whatever I could do at home. When I started going to the gym, I know I did 4 workouts with this sort of rotational push-pull legs. I think I was a little bit afraid of everything I was reading, that of doing too much. But I just snuck in a 5th workout, and all of a sudden I'm doing push-pull legs twice per week. So, whatever is a step forward, that could be something like an upper lower twice per week. See how you handle it, build on from there. But honestly, it's like, just many times I think the recommendation for beginners, like doing 3 full body per week, it's more like, in hindsight now, I see how I could have like made more progress doing less, because I just understand how everything works better now. But I mean, I know a bunch of people that quite quickly are in the gym almost every day and handle it well, and it's just like have to keep the intensity and volume per workout down a bit. Actually, I'll tell you this, I have some clients that are complete beginners on the same split as me, that are in the gym every day. It's just that instead of doing like 5 to 7 exercises, they do 3 per workout. And it is for this kind of person that feels like they're an all or nothing kind of person. That it's for some people it's actually harder to stay consistent when they are just in the gym 3 times per week, because they feel like they get this day when they don't train, and then it's like, oh, now it's a training day. While if it becomes a habit, like now it's time to go to the gym, it's easier for some. But so it's always a balance, of course, between volume, intensity, frequency. Like the stream if you haven't, guys. Maybe send a super chat if you appreciate these streams. Y says, yeah, burpees are a great way to loosen up for sure. Yeah, they're great. Intensity. LCD9 said, so true. I have no idea about what, because I'm obviously behind on the chat, but it's great, guys. It's not a huge stream, but I really like that you keep talking, and it's good. It's useful questions. Van Bard, how do you keep people committed when you coach? My view is that to rely on discipline rather than motivation, the bedrock is knowledge of the many reasons why it's necessary to train. But obviously, the reason why people come to you in the first place can be because they want to get directions. So what has been your best trick, quote unquote, to inspire passionate autonomy to the people you coach? It's like, I mean, many people, they struggle. Honestly, what a lot of people struggle with is the relationship to themselves. That people judge themselves very harshly when they, make some kind of mistake. That's why so many people have started and stopped, did something extreme, or failed at some point. See, I always do this. I'll just quit and go back in another direction. And that's why so many people have been moving like this. And for many people, my job kind of is to make them realize that progress both is not linear, and you don't have to be perfect. It's like I keep telling the story of how I had to be humble and learn this when I got through the panic attacks, that I could, on my program I was at, when I'm supposed to go to my job I have at the time, be there for half the day and then go home. That's it, that's the program. I could have a day when I managed to do that, I feel like, yes, I rode the panic attack out when it came, I managed to be there, great. And the next day, I go out of the door and I see all the people in the subway and it's too much and I have to turn around. But I had no choice at that point than to be humble, even though it felt terrible. Like, how am I ever gonna get out of this? I thought I was getting there yesterday, but clearly I'm not there yet. But I just had to be humble and rise and try again. Get up again, try again, right? And I noticed that it did improve over time. I didn't have to be perfect. So many times now I'm telling the story to make that point. I obviously don't have to tell this story to the same client over and over and over, but that's my point, to remind them that, you know, you're not supposed to be perfect. You don't have to. You just have to rise up again. And so many times with some people have different behaviors too. Some people, when they feel ashamed because they, you know, failed to adhere to the plan, they'll kind of ghost me, like not completely, you know, but they won't tell me that they did it. And that kind of person, I have to notice that and be like on their ass, like, hey, what's going on? You know, how are things going? And then they might admit like, oh, you know, I didn't do this and I feel terrible. I think I'll never change, you know. And then I have to tell them this, that, hey, you know, you're not back on square one. You've done this, you know, you've already improved in the gym. You know, you've had many days when you've done this, this, and this. That's part of the program, right? So it's reminders, right? We all need reminders, like give ourselves reminders, but that's a lot what a coach does. It's not always dropping this new, incredibly insightful knowledge. It's like, at many times, it's just that this person needs to remember that, hey, you're doing well overall. Just because you did some mistakes or because you slipped, you had a bad week even, you know, you are not back on square one. This is fine. This is part of the process. Get up again, try again. Of course, it's a bit different with different people. Some people, they really just need directions, like you said. And that kind of person, it's just gonna be like pointers about like, oh, maybe let's tweak this thing now. Oh, maybe let's change it up and do this thing now. But being the kind of person with the story I am and the kind of coach I am, I of course often get people that really, what it is, many people don't think of it that way, but it is struggling with the relationship to self, having these extreme standards on yourself. So when you can't be perfect, you know, you've set this impossible standard for yourself, so you never get anywhere. And just making this person be kinder to themselves, actually. That's also an interesting thing. Many people expect them, just because the way I talk in some videos, that I'm going to be so harsh on them. Like, what are you doing? Get back on track. Honestly, there is a time. I'll tell one difference, one last story. But, you know, honestly, most people that come to me, they are already way too harsh on themselves. So they need to learn that, hey, it's actually okay. You're actually doing well. You don't have to be perfect just to go through with things. And yeah, I got a little super chat. I'm gonna get to that after I just finish this point. I'll say this, that I think I told this story recently on a stream, that it depends on where the person is at. I say most people, when they come to me, they are already too hard on themselves. I need to teach them to be kinder on themselves, and I need to be kind to them and support them. I never lie to a person, but highlight their strengths and what they're doing well, so they actually feel like, yeah, I am good enough, like I got this. It's okay that I'm not perfect. But for instance, I had a guy like that was super harsh on himself and kept failing at everything and being just like, you know, I make this excuse and I do this and I do that. Had to highlight his strengths and tell him, you know, you have an objectively tough situation with everything going on in your life. That you're even trying is honorable. You're doing it for noble reasons, right? That made him up his game for a while, but then he became complacent and a bit too comfortable. And then there came a point when I have to call him out, like, hey, man, you know, when you came to me, you were too hard on yourself. You needed a bit of softer love, but now I gotta tell you that you are just not doing shit that you definitely could do at this point. You're not prioritizing this. Why am I even here? You know, are you just gonna pay me to just be your buddy and not do anything? I don't think so. So, yeah, I hope that was, you know, good answer to what you were asking. So let's see, Jaser, a 50 crown super chat, Swedish crowns. Really appreciate you sharing your experiences and perspective with us while remaining humble and inspiring. Is there a schedule for your streams? So thank you. You know, honestly, I get really, first of all, I get really happy when people can acknowledge and be nice and tell me that I'm humble, because I get so many people that just think I'm so full of myself and a narcissist and all that crap. And while I handle that quite well, you know, as people, we always want to feel seen and understood for who we are. And just because I'm a little harsh and blunt, and that's like part of the way I teach sometimes, I know that I'm here to help, and I share everything about myself, my weaknesses as well. So it's just nice to recognize like that. I appreciate that, man. Is there a schedule for your streams? So That's the thing, man. I like doing streams, but sometimes, even though I like them, that like now here, I said before that when I go on this vacation, and in the mood I am, and just the way my life looks throughout these 10 days I've been here, it's gonna be easier for me to just prioritize streams. But at a point, it's always like I cannot just because I like doing the streams, I cannot justify putting away all this time for them. So I'm always saying, like, it's a little bit up to you guys, you know. If you show up, if you bring good questions, and if you support with super chats, because that's a thing. I had to think. I do so much work for free already, like both on YouTube, but in my real life and stuff. You know, I don't get paid for everything I do, and there always comes a point where it's like, well, Theo, you cannot just give yourself away for free just because you like doing these things. So it's really a thing that if there's enough engagement, like that in and of itself helps. Just that I have content to do here on the stream. I feel like I don't have to run it completely by myself. But the super chats, if I can like expect to get like a few super chats per stream, it's also something that's like, well, this is like paid work. Then I can prioritize it. So I'll say this before I move on, just because of the, you know, during the summer and stuff. I think now in August, I'm sure I'll do more spontaneous streams too, or I can try to find a moment to have a scheduled one, and that would probably be on Sundays at around this time. Like I'll probably start a little later than I started this one, but not too late, because I like to go to bed early. I like to get at least an hour or two to wind down for myself. But probably if I have a set schedule for streams, that would probably be like 5 p.m. Swedish time, go for a couple of hours, something around there, and then a few spontaneous ones. But it's gonna be up to you guys and the response they get. I'll say this as a last thing. Sometimes I think about doing some kind of group coaching. I have in the past actually, or have some kind of like community site or something like that. You know, with a paid membership for something like that, I could put live streams as part of that, of course. It's all about, I love doing this, but like I said, I cannot just justify always doing it if there's not personally enough return on investment for me. And Van Bard said, I know what he asked about before, about the coaching. Thanks, Theo, I appreciate your insightful answers. Well, I appreciate your thoughtful, interesting question, man, and good attitude. Harada, what about MK677? What do you mean? I love when people just say, what about something out of nowhere? Like, what about it? I barely know what that is. It's something, I think it's something you take that like stimulates your natural growth hormone production, I think. Maybe it's classed as a SARM. What about it? I don't know shit about it. It's like, I'm not interested in any of that stuff anyway. So, what about it, man? What about it? Let's see. LCD9. Theo, do you ever want to live in a cabin in the mountains and be a hermit? I mean, at time periods, I've been sort of a hermit. Like when I was living in Greece, that was quite close to it. Like, you know, I still did social things, but so much I kept to myself in this little village I lived in. And I didn't live on the mountain, but there was a mountain. I would go up there, you know, by myself. So, you know, I think, you know, I say this, sometimes it's good to go monk mode or hermit mode. You know, just be by yourself, spend a lot of time in your own company, introspecting, working on some things. But some people need to get out of monk mode. And honestly, if anything, I'm a guy that's, you know, I've talked a lot about that lately. That this year, I've actually gone out of my way to not be too much of a monk. So would I ever? I mean, I think I have. And there's a time and place for everything. And personally, I think I've done the monk mode I need for now. Okay, Julian said something in response to the MK677 guy. LCD9. True, after tracking meticulously for about 5 years, I can just know in my gut if I hit my goal. Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. You create consciousness. You create awareness of things. It's like, you know, when you... I should probably... Sometimes the ways I think about some things, I think it's so difficult to explain to someone, you know. And that's why many times you just... Like when you coach someone, you just know that if this person does many of the things I say, I know things they're going to learn that I cannot really tell them. But when you do content about things, and I think a lot about this concept of creating consciousness, creating awareness of something. And it's like, think even training, like certain more complex exercises at the start, whether you're by yourself, and you know, you film yourself and stuff, or if you have a trainer, you might have to think about the same fucking cues of how you do the form over and over and over to get it right. And then at a certain point, you've polished it so much that you never have to think about it. You know, one really interesting thing, I struggled a lot with a front squat that I love. One of the biggest issues I had was that the bar would slip, fall forward. And then a friend of a friend, actually, this great guy on Instagram, I think he's a bit of a hidden to many people, like really great natural strength hypertrophy guy. Very philosophical, introspective guy too. His handle on Instagram is Devin P. Kelly. But he is a guy like me that if you're respectful in your interactions with him, you can... he absolutely is a guy that wants to help, right? So even though he's someone that's quite expensive to work with, if you're respectful with his time and the way you ask things and that, he will give you help. And so, because he's really fucking sick on front squats, I asked him about, like I saw him mention in a post something about if you have troubles with the bar. And I started asking him about it. And one advice that he gave me was just like, practice front squatting with lighter weight and just focusing on how easy it feels to have the bar in position. And it sounds weird, right? But many times some things you cannot get really clear instructions on how to do. It's like, I'm going into the front squat now with the intention of making it feel more effortless to have the bar there. And ever since I did that, you know, on my warm-up sets maybe before front squats, I've never had to think about it. The bar is just staying in position. It's really quite incredible. That's why I talk about sometimes about cultivating traits or skills. That sometimes it's not exact. It's not so exact what you do. It's just that you go into something with an intention, like this is what I'm trying to accomplish. And your little subconscious, all the little senses you have are going to be geared towards that, and something just happens. So, yeah. Nugget, did you have the shades on during golfing? Wearing them inhibits melanin production, which leads to faster burns. No, I didn't. Like, honestly, I almost never wear sunglasses. I just kind of think it's funny on the stream, like have a little bit of a look, you know. I almost never wear sunglasses in general, so I didn't on the golf course either. It was just, I was out for a long time at the peak sunlight, that's it, you know. Yak. He asks in Swedish. I'll just say, man, if you comment or text me, you can of course talk Swedish, but on the streams, I want it to be in English for the benefit of everyone else. He asks how to find male role models in this country, so Sweden, without turning to forums like 4chan, Flashback, and videos about self-improvement. I mean, how to find them? I mean, if you're asking about not finding them online, pretty much, well, you have to find them in real life then. It's like, you know, I mean, there are some younger guys in gyms I've gone to that kind of find me, I guess, will talk with me sometimes. And maybe because we get to know each other, they will send me a message here and there. So, I mean, if you're not going to find them online, you have to find them in real life. It's like, I guess you'd find them in places that are like at the gym, like an activity you want to do, but let's say you're into martial arts. Maybe you find them in some kind of martial arts club or something. But it's like, yeah, if you don't want to find them online, I mean, Flashback and 4chan, what are you going to find there? You're going to find a bunch of idiots. Like, not to say that everyone there is an idiot, of course, but, you know, people that are anonymous and talk online, it's easy to just talk a bunch of crap, right? like it's better than to find someone on YouTube or something. That, at least someone that's like public, like that's very public. But otherwise, you have to find them in real life, in places that you like, you know, want to be part of, or where people that you might want to know could be. Carbless 88. Theo, if I have 1 month when I lift less, 1 week full body workouts only, but focus more on fat loss, what process would you recommend? I mean, why would you lift less though for that? I would not recommend lifting less. I mean, you can of course focus a bit less on pushing the progress or something, but honestly, it depends. Look, this depends so much on the context. Like how you want to focus more on fat loss. Like how much fat do you have to lose? Are you trying to get really lean, or are you actually overweight? It depends, right? So I mean, it's, yeah, I would recommend not decreasing, because for many people it's actually both short and long term to keep the strength workouts, hypertrophy workouts in. Like in the long term, it's going to be good because building more muscle is just going to raise your, you know, resting metabolic rate. You have you're a machine that runs on more energy, right? So you can eat more and be in a deficit, or even end up in a bigger deficit, if you see what I mean. But other than that, it's like the same always. You could do long fasts. You don't have to. You eat high protein, create a deficit somehow, whether that's through long fasts or a daily deficit. And then always low intensity activity like walking. It's pretty much like the more the better. Because if you do like cardio at higher intensities can be good, but there's like a limit how much you can recover from and feel good. Just walking a lot, for instance, just getting more steps in on a day, standing more than you're sitting and stuff. Of course, there's a limit to that too, but there's really something that's, unless it's extreme, it's pretty much the more the better. But that, again, that depends. Are you super overweight? Because then that can be too much too. You know, that's something I realized lately. Just being with someone that was a bit more overweight, going on a walk, realizing that, hey, for this person walking in like a terrain where it's a bit like this, it's actually more of a workout because they have so much more weight to move around. While I will, maybe if it's a steep hill and we go talk, maybe I'll get, you know, start breathing a bit more deeply, but I could do that for so long, right? So again, it's a little bit too unspecific. Yeah, and you said in terms of diet, calories, fasting, I meant, yeah, well, you're gonna have to be more specific. Like the stream if you haven't, guys. Maybe support with another super chat. Motivate Daddy Theo, Uncle Theo, Brother Theo, whatever I am to you, to keep doing these streams on the regular. Rastajlik. Am I pronouncing that okay? Would you describe your political views close to libertarian ones? Just guessing. Greetings from Czech Republic. No, I mean, no. I mean, I used to be quite libertarian. You know, I wouldn't say that my political views are so libertarian. If anything, I'm some kind of combination of more conservative and libertarian then. But also, it's like I was like more right-wing in a sense when I was younger. You know, they often say that, oh, when you're young, if you're not left-wing, you don't have a heart, and if you're older and you're if you are left-wing when you're older, you don't have a brain or something like that. But I just realized that, first of all, I think the division between the right and left is another like fake division. Like it's really stupid that many leftists, they are really upset at like what big corporations do, but they're happy to let the state do it. And then vice versa. Many right-wing people, they don't like the state doing different things, that they are completely fine when, oh, well, it's a private, oh, the free market, all capitalism, you know. So first of all, I don't really consider myself political or having a color or ideology at all. Just as a human being in person, and how I think, how I would like society to look like. It's like, generally, I like freedom under responsibility, but I also see with certain things that, I hate to say it, but a lot of people cannot handle freedom well. So that, therefore, I cannot be like a complete anarchist or a libertarian. I am a very live and let live person. I mean, I think when it comes to something like drugs, for instance, I think it's so difficult. because I don't really know how helpful it is to like, give penalties to people for using drugs. I also think, if there could be some kind of, do you know, I often think, if it could be free to make our choices, but the state still tries to instill like good values in us. Like take the drugs, if they are legal, let's say they're all legal, if they could be that, but then we're actually properly informed about the risks about them, and we can create a culture where it's not really like encouraged to do drugs. That is something I'd really like. But many things, when you sit and think about this, it's also so utopian, and I think it's like it's hard to come up with like what is the best, because are we talking about like in reality how things would actually work, or just in theory? But yeah, I guess I'm quite libertarian in the sense that I would prefer to let people choose to do what they want to do as much as possible. I guess I believe in the non-aggression principle. Like, okay, you do whatever shit you want as long as it doesn't like hurt me. But I would like at least some kind of like instilling values in people for things. That because it's an easy example with drugs, just because they're legal doesn't mean that we're like, hey, everyone is fine with you just doing drugs however the hell you want. Mo for gains, nice shirt. Well, thanks, man. I think the last time I was on stream, I bought 4. It's the same pattern, but different colors, and these were the like 50 Swedish crown shirts I bought on this marketplace. A lot because you guys comment on things like that on stream, so I'm just like, I might as well play into it. Eye Slipper. Do you think the V-taper is overrated? Also, thanks for getting me back in the gym. Well, I'm really happy and proud if I helped to get you back in the gym, and nice that you are. If I think the V-taper is overrated, I mean, what I think is strange to me about things like that is that people seem to think like this, like, oh, I want a V-taper, or I want this, or this is my goal physique, while I've never had a goal physique other than mine, just better, right? It's like I don't try to be anything that I want. Like if I try to have a super small waist, if I put that as some kind of ideal, I would never be able to reach that, because I naturally have both anterior pelvic tilt, kind of blocky ab muscles. I'm not going to have that. In certain angles, it still looks quite slim, the waist. But you see what I mean? That if a V-taper or this or that is overrated, it's like, I don't think that way. I've always just tried to look at me, like, okay, this is how I look now. This is an area I'd like to bring up. When it's with it, like the arms, for instance. Like, I know that my torso is generally pretty damn good, but my arms, I felt all that. I get natural hypertrophy says spider physique. Someone said something that sounded nicer, the Superman physique. Kind of funny, this shorter guy that I know in a gym, he has like really good arms. But he likes my physique more. It's like, no, I prefer the not spider, Superman physique. He said it. That, you know, I don't remember how he described it, but so it's just funny how we often want what we don't have. But you see what I mean? V-taper, I've never had any like, oh, I try to look like this. This is the look I'm going for. I'm like, no, I'm Theo. This is the hand I've been dealt. Or like the starting point I've been dealt. What do I want to polish about this, you know? So that's how I can't even say if I think it's overrated or not. Carbless88. Because of my children being at home due to holidays. Okay, that's why you're gonna train less. I've lost 20 kilos, started to lift but stagnated on weight loss. Right now I'm 78 kilos at 170 meters height. Lifting for less than a year, so still overweight. Yeah, okay, so you're probably like coming from, okay, you were more overweight. Maybe you're like skinny fattish now, but maybe you built a bit of muscle. Okay, I mean, you say that your kids are there still, so I don't know quite what you can do. I mean, it's still like, I don't know what's ideal for you. There are so many different things you can do. I mean, long fasts are always so accessible. If you can just like not eat for several days, you could do that. If you have time, you said you have time for one full body workout. You could do that weekly 60-hour fast, the routine I have. But just, and the way I would do it then, for instance, is like I would put the full body workout as like in the middle of the eating days as possible. So let's say you start the fast on Sunday, like in the middle. I would do it like this. Let's say you start the fast on Sunday evening, and you break it on Wednesday. I would then train on Thursday, because when you have the opportunity, if you're just gonna train once, might as well carb up, right? Refeed. Go smash that full body workout on the Thursday. Then you could eat still, right under your maintenance, but just make sure you get enough protein, but don't overeat, and then repeat that. And then as much as you can just walk around that. Like, this is something that I would like to do, right? But some people don't have it in them to fast immediately like this, just because you have a month. I don't know about you, of course, but if I am to give some kind of one answer without knowing what your, preferences are, what would be easier for you, that's something I'd like to do. Jack, how do I deal with fast food cravings in the most effective way? So what kind of fast food do you crave? If you mean fast food, like more like the salty, fatty stuff, kebab, pizza, French fries, that kind of stuff. Do you know that a lot of people, their body, when they crave that kind of food, a lot of it comes from that their body has identified that as a source of sodium, right? Source of salt. So many times just having salt, like electrolytes, or just, eating some real good food, or just making sure there's salt, that can actually eliminate the craving like that. When it comes to stuff like sugar, honestly, I think sugar, more than the salty, fatty stuff, is something that has to be treated a bit more like a drug addiction. That kind of like, it's like part of it. Dealing with the craving is like having it and not eating, if you see. Sometimes that's just what you have to do. It's like, you didn't ask this, but if a question is like, how do you lose weight without hunger issues? It's like, well, you kind of don't, that's part of it. That you're feeling hungry, that's what weight loss feels like, part of it, right? So, yeah, if it's the more salty, fatty stuff, just electrolytes or making sure to salt your other good food properly would be good. When it comes to the sugary stuff, it's more like a drug addiction, like you have to keep away. Or of course, bring into your regular food, like you choosing part of your carbs to have some from fruits or honey, for instance. Let's see. Yeah, LCD9 gave a he said to Jack with the cravings. Very salty but macro-friendly meals with a diet soda hits the spot. Yeah, that is good advice too. Diet soda is a good one. I call these like transition food or kind of health foods. That, of course, this is, by the way, some some mineral water with 14% fruit juice in it. Wild strawberry taste, smultron. But yeah, diet soda, not that I think it's too big of a deal, honestly, unless you consume like extreme amounts of it. But I just don't crave it anymore now when I actually have some like juice and stuff in my diet. But diet soda is like, if that can curb a sugar craving when you're losing weight or when you're transitioning into a better lifestyle, that's a great tool. Like the stream if you haven't, guys. Maybe support the stream and the channel with a super chat if you want more of these. But I'm really liking the activity in the chat, guys. Let me see what time it is. Okay, so I can be here for about another 45 minutes now. Then I'm gonna have to go eat dinner with the other people. Eye Slipper, yeah, I get that. I think my reason for asking was because I wanted one, but when I saw natural hypertrophy, I thought his physique looked really cool. Oh, you asked about the V-taper, yeah. I mean, of course, in part, it's like, we can, just because we want what we don't have, like I told you about the guy with the big arms, like he preferred my physique, and I didn't necessarily prefer his physique, but his arms I preferred, right? So there can be a little bit of that, but I think just learning to accept, to just be happy with what you have, and like, instead of wishing for something that you can't have anyway, it's just like, what's the best I can do with what I have? Always the best. And that was an interesting point, because natural hypertrophy likes the idea of having a goal physique, like you have to have something to visualize. And I told him, like, well, you know, if it works for some people, but that's never really been it for me. And you're asking about Mo for gains. You have said on the pod with natural hypertrophy that you used to hate immigrants before because you were in a bad spot. As an immigrant, I find it interesting. I always wondered why someone would hate me without knowing me. I'm not judging you, of course. I'm generally asking, why do you think a lot of people do? It's just a tribalism in us. Well, first of all, I never hated immigrants. It's like, it's when you're, you know, you cannot nuance every thing you say. It's more like, you know, honestly, you know, Jesse Lee Peterson that I love. I'm not following closely anymore, but I do watch an episode of The Fallen State on YouTube here every once in a while. He had Mike O'Hearn on recently. That was fun. That was a sick crossover. But you know, he says, and he's a black guy, like old black conservative fellow, and he says that racism doesn't exist. And what he means by that is that it's not really racism, it's actually just hate, right? And so when you have hate within, often you don't like yourself, you don't have love from within, you find something, you find some kind of scapegoat, something to direct it towards. So that's what he means by racism doesn't exist. It's just like, it's one kind of scapegoating, it's all just hate, right? So I didn't really just generally hate immigrants. It's just that when I'm in a bad place and I follow the news and I found my thing, right? I'm angry with the feminists. And first it starts with the politicians and the media and the feminists, but then it turns into like I'm actually angry at women and immigrants. But it's not every single one. It's not that, oh, there's a brown person, so I don't like them. But now, because you have these ideas in your head too, you kind of project certain things. Because of course there are a lot of problems with immigration in Sweden, and there are a bunch of, you know, there are crimes that immigrants are like overrepresented in and stuff, and that's just true, right? But then you start, when you put these ideas in your head, now suddenly you see ghosts everywhere. You kind of look for bad behavior in immigrants or in women, like, because you're so brainwashed with this, combined with having this hate inside you. So, you know, I often had, like, for instance, I had even then, like, immigrant friends that I really liked, and I had this, like, dissonance that, you know, I like this guy, but some part of me is like, he shouldn't be here, you know, because I've been brainwashed with these ideologies. So, you know, I hope that answers your question, that clearly, because I could have even then friends that had a different background, but then, you know, when I started loving myself from within, suddenly just, with the hate in general went away. I could see clearly now, and I could then see clearly that, now I feel completely, I can, like I say, I can still see that there are problems with the immigration. I'm obviously not a radical feminist, right? But I can just see now, these were just kind of the outlets. When I didn't dare to face myself, these were the outlets I found, so, yeah. No, so I probably wouldn't have had a problem with you if I met you back then, and I definitely don't now. So I hope that clarifies things. And it's like you're a cool guy, man. That just, you know, that just wants to ask, and you know, this is what I love. I get some really great people around the channel. Like, you clarify, I'm not judging. I'm generally asking. I'm curious. I want to understand. This is what I love, you know, because I'm like this too. I ask people questions because I'm just interested to know. Like, so what was that like, or what was your thinking, or how did you feel about it? And this is how we learn and grow, instead of people just like to judge and make things up, like I did to some degree back in the day, right? But then you have to grow up, realize, you know, everyone has their shit, their background, their story. So yeah, man, really appreciate your attitude. Top Master X, you recommend fasting for 40 hours once every week. For what purpose? For who? What are you trying to accomplish at the same time as that? I don't just generally recommend that. I mean, when I fasted 48 hours per week and I tried to make that as into a routine and gain muscle at the same time, it was very difficult. I mean, I probably gained some muscle, but mainly I could add strength, but I really saw my gains stall when I tried to be too fast with that. So, you know, but for a weight loss routine, it could matter, but, you know, really have to be more precise. When you ask if I recommend it, it's like, no, not just in general. right? Depends. And Carlos88 said, thanks. So fasting and refeeding. Yeah, that, that would be, it would be really, if you do that, if you do exactly what I said, that would be really cool to hear how it goes. Check the time. Michael Sordelli. Hello, buddy. My name is Michael Sordelli. I have learning disability. I go out with a support worker for a couple of hours to the shopping centers for lunch and coffee. I live in Melbourne, Australia, bro. Yeah? You said that several times. Hello. Okay, so okay, I mean, you say you have a learning disability, but you just wanted to say hi and tell me what you do. Well, that's cool, man. Appreciate you. LCD9, on V-taper topic. I love looking like a blocky turtle shell dwarf. I never had abs, and I probably never will because I don't enjoy cutting. Okay, but would you like to be leaner at some point? You say you don't enjoy cutting, but would you like, if we, let's say you can just do it, and it's not too bad, would you want to be leaner? Because I think you didn't say anything that sounded like a cope now, but lots of people with different things in the other direction also, actually, hard gainers, like, well, it's not worth it, I don't enjoy the way I'm feeling when I eat so much, and la la la. It's like, well, if you don't want to be big, that's fine, but just don't make up stories about it. It's like, just be honest then. Same thing, I wouldn't even want to be that lean. It's like, well, because I think that it's genuine. Some people are fine not being super rich. I personally love it. I love both the way I look and feel. I think everything is great about it. But I can totally see that some people don't, because it's not like you have to have abs to be healthy. Like, you can't be too fat, but it's not like no abs equals unhealthy. I just always want to know, like, are you happy with that or not? Samuel Allen, the flow is looking marvelous. You mean the hair? Yeah, has the wind coming from the right direction for once too. Sometimes, not so much. It's very annoying. Mo for Gains, yep. And I said something first, right? Very understandable. Thank you for answering. Yep, I never take it personally. Someone hates me just because of my existence. I mean, it's more of their problem, not mine. It's very often the ones that are unhappy with their life that project the hate. Yeah, exactly. I learned it so much. I interact, and sometimes probably too much, with people that are like haters. I see it so much. It's like, you cannot reason with some of these people. I am, of course, often hoping that it's like I'm planting a seed for further down the line, that someone that is a hater now will very rarely just be like, oh, do you know what? I'm changing my mind. But they might further down the line. You really see, like, you cannot reach this person. It just cannot be about you. That they make up whatever shit they make up about you in their head. It's like, man, they must be in such a dark place to project that shit onto someone else. I had this guy today that I indulged with a bit in comments. I was like, fake Natty thing. He has all the proofs, that he's made up in here. Oh, veins, they don't look like that. It's from testosterone use that does this with blood antibody. Knows so many fucking things that I have no idea about, because I'm not into steroids, right? And so I put him in his place quite harshly. And then, of course, he moves on to just try to hurt me. Just say hurtful things that have nothing to do with steroids anymore. And yeah, I just had fun with this guy, but after a while, because at a point I'm trying to help by being this way, but at a point I'm like, well, now this guy is being nasty. I'm actually gonna get in a bad mood if I keep going with this. But then if someone overdoes it, it's like, well, I can't even take it bad now, because it's so obvious that it's this person. I've triggered the shit out of this person, and he's so full of hate, and he's just trying to take me down. He must be feeling terrible. Bill McBeally, trend tan stream. Yeah, every stream is trend tan stream. Actually, I talked about the wind coming. I actually want to turn away from the sun a little bit. I'm gonna start walking. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe try taking these off. Don't wear sunglasses like so often. It's like waking up again. Eye slipper, if trying to reach hypertrophy, how do you deal with the pain? Just the pain of working out? Just learn. It's like quite incredible. I think about this many times. I remember how much more it just hurt to train earlier. But this, in the video from yesterday, get comfortable being uncomfortable, many things, because I get carried away. I forget specific points, but me, I don't have anything to do now, and I've already hit a hard-ass workout today. But I could, at any point, just be like, okay, I'll just take a set to failure and beyond, and I'm gonna grunt and make all the sounds, and I'm gonna feel the lactic acid. But then I'm gonna have done it, and I'm gonna be a bit like, oh, okay, guys, wow, that was a good set. You get used to it. You just toughen up. And that's what I want to teach people too, beyond bodybuilding and stuff, that you can really train your ability to do anything that a human body can experience, and that you can just get better at handling it. And that's the point with a video like that many things that initially feel so uncomfortable and difficult for you to do, the more you just push beyond your current threshold, you will improve your ability to deal with it. And when you've done that with many different things, including training to failure for hypertrophy, you get so much more comfortable overall. You get anti-fragile, right? So with a specific case of training to fail for hypertrophy and dealing with the pain, it's just like, just push yourself. Keep pushing yourself harder and harder and harder. If you can make progress between workouts, you're training hard enough. But yeah, that's it. Do drop sets just for the sake of being able to. That's what I also talk about that I forgot to mention in the video. Drop sets I don't even do necessarily for like gains. It's just like, well, I'm already here in the pain zone. I'll see how much harder can I push it. Do some kind of crazy set sometimes. Not because like, oh, this will grow my muscle. It's like, well, I feel cool that I'm able to do this, and I'll toughen up even more. Well, for gains, as about thoughts on sunscreen, I don't feel like, I talked about it on many streams recently, including this one before you came around, so don't like it, avoid it, use better strategies to deal with the sun. It also says, I don't think anyone enjoy cutting. I do it as an investment to maybe put on more mass in the future, like emptying some space for the bulk. Yes and no, because I've learned to, this is the thing also, the more you go through these kinds of processes, it's not like, oh, I enjoy the sensation I get from cutting, but I enjoy knowing what it leads to. I know that me being hungry when I cut is like a sign that I'm going in the right direction. When I come from a bulk, if I feel hungry at any point, I can just I can just eat. It's good that I'm hungry. Wow, that makes it easier. I don't have to force feed. But when I then eat in a deficit and have fasted, and I'm done with my calories on a day, and I feel like eating something more in the evening, it's like, but I can't though, because I have this higher goal of cutting now. Makes me feel good that I feel this discomfort that I'd like to eat, but I'm choosing not to for my higher goal. I'm disciplined, I'm a badass, I'm reaching my goal again, So you see, it's not that you learn to, it's just like pain from training. It's not like I get an orgasm from going to failure, but I just like knowing that, me pushing it this way, it leads me to my goals. I enjoy this. And I think it's something that comes with having gone through stuff with stuff like that enough times, and actually knowing, not hoping. That's what's so difficult for many people when they try to lose weight first. They just have a vague idea that this should lead to me being thinner at some point, but they don't truly have a belief in it often. That's so many times that's what keeps people from being able to lose weight. That deep down, even when they follow a plan, they don't believe that they can do it. And changing that belief is part of being able to. Samuel Allen, you have a calisthenics travel workout regimen when you don't have gym access. I know you were mentioning training while traveling recently. Yeah, I have a video about it. Go watch it. Jaser, do you listen to music or podcasts during workout? When I do, I tend to drift away and lose focus between sets. Easier to be in the moment without other stimulus. So it comes back and forth. I actually 1 year ago, I started listening to music more than ever when I was training, because I generally haven't done that. But I love to listen to video game music and funk. It's kind of funny. That funk really is like my genre. I love that music. And so podcasts I don't listen to much when training. Then that would be more like for a walk or something. But even then I like to do that in silence many times. You know, to not just be so fucking stimulated and distracted all the time. All human beings are all the time. So afraid of facing themselves and just their thoughts, you know. But, you know, for me, I do it with like the funk. Like I will wait for when I sit ready to do my set, and here's the drum, like da 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 da. Start going. Like, I'm such a fucking beast. Love this. This is my reality now. This is my theme music. Crushing this set. So depends on how you use it, of course. Mo for gains. I've lost 55 kg, so any cut I've done after that has been pretty easy because nothing will be as hard as losing 55 kg. Well, that's great work, man. I've never had to lose that much. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing. I made that point earlier in the stream, maybe before you came. But when you've either like done things wrong, as I put it, or just been in pain, but been in a bad spot, if you manage to get out of it, you'll always have that contrast, that this is so much better than where I previously was at. I'll never go back to that. That's why, you know, that's why I consider myself the lucky one with this panic attack thing, you know, that because I was pushed so hard towards the limit of what I could even tolerate and managed to dig myself out of that hole, I just don't see myself ever losing. You know, it's one thing that you have a bad period and you just regress slightly in your habits or something, you know, or you did something that was less ideal at some point. That's one thing, but like in the grand scheme of things, like how could I ever stop working out? I love it. I know what it's done for me. I enjoy it so much. And, you know, why would I start drinking? I know how terrible I felt when I did that. Why would I start eating the shit food? I have no plan for how I eat when I feel so much better when I do it. It's like, I cannot see any possible way when I just stop doing this. While people that just had a more decent, you know, health, and then, you know, maybe work and get a family and they kind of gradually regress into something else, they have not gotten pushed to the limit that hard, and it's often way harder for people there to take themselves out of that. So, yeah, man, if you had 55 kg to lose and you lost it, it's like, you know, you'll always know what that was like, and that you're such a much better spot now. And he says also, Mo for gains, I can relate a lot to your panic attacks too, man. I used to have them pretty bad. Happy you're in a better place too. Yeah, appreciate you, man. And yeah, it's a tough thing. It's really a crazy thing to have to deal with. Julian Burney says, so true. I guess about this last rant I was on. So right now, it's been a great stream, I feel like. But right now we're out the things in the chat. I can stick around for, well, at least like 15 minutes. I could really use to go for a pee, actually. But that's like, you know, I could of course do that next to the camera. But where I'm at now, it's too public of a place. But I'll wait a little bit here, see if you have some more to say. Billy McBilly, panic cell. Yeah, Billy has also had some panic attacks, I think, if I recall correctly. Me being the nice big brother figure that I am, wanted him to message me on the Discord. And there is a Discord, but I always said he says it's true, yeah. That you know, there is a Discord, but I always said that, you know, if you guys want to be active and connect through, like, you know, like-minded people through Uncommon Sense, that's cool, but I'm probably gonna forget that it exists. And that happened. And I don't think there's been any activity in there for a long time. Mo for gains, I need a panic cell tattooed on my forehead. No, always when there's a little less action, or when I went through everything in the chat, I'm always looking like, is there something just fun I can do around here? Julian Burney, what do you think of healthy relationship is between a woman and a man? I mean, I think any healthy relationship is one where you know, you both are better off because you're in it, right? Of course, there's always some sacrifices. Like if we're talking about romantic relationship, in the end, probably, you know, that you live together, so you sacrifice some of your private space, some of your free time, maybe, and even more so when you have kids and that. But that netto, with everything said and done, you both are better off because you're in the relationship. And that can of course look many different ways, because you just ask a very open question like that, and I understand you also want to just give some fuel for the stream, but because it can look very differently. I think, of course, I tend to think that in a masculine feminine dynamic, the man is more of the leader and the woman more of a follower. But it's not for every situation always, Sometimes the man is gonna be more in his feminine and the woman more in her masculine, and it's not always a bad thing. But the general pattern, I would say that it's like that. But any relationship, whether it's between man and woman, a romantic friendship or whatever, it needs to be that you both are better off because of this. Not if you feel like drained or like, oh, there's certain things I like here, but I always have to put up with this and that, right? Often, and that's often the case with toxic relationships, right? Of course, there can be something that's just purely toxic. Someone is just like with a very abusive person, but many times it's toxic because there's something that you really, really like about this person too, but it's really that the price is too high. You don't actually win in the end, and you refuse to see that. Mo Forgins asks if I ever been to Austria. I actually haven't. I don't think so. No, because I've been to the Alps, but it's been like Swiss Alps and Italian Alps. I could have just crossed over at some point, to an Austrian side. I don't remember. It could have happened. But I've never really, truly been to Austria, no. Because I've been to quite a few places in Europe, not Austria. Chaser asks, have you ever had a buzz cut? I like that feeling. Not the fanciest haircut, but it feels empowering. Yeah, man. Last time in 2023, if you go back and look at videos from then, I will have a buzz cut. I was having a really shit time in Greece after a certain point, and it's very much something you do sometimes. I just saw an interesting follow-up there. When I had to kill off an identity, right? I had gotten into a very wounded, bad ego that I needed to shed somehow, and so it's often, just to send some kind of signal to yourself. Like, I didn't really want to buzz. Like, it is very convenient, but I want to have hair, maybe not always this long, but it's like a signal. Like, I'm shedding. I'm cutting something off. I'm leaving something behind. Then I did it. Before then, I've done it before that when I was younger too. But during this uncommon sense time, I did it. Was it in 2020? I did it, like right before the summer. It is very convenient, but I think there's something too. Like, first of all, people comment so much on my blonde hair that I feel like I have to play into that and use that. But some people say that the hair is like the spiritual antenna, and well, I don't know, but I just like to choose to believe in stuff like that, it doesn't hurt me, right? Julian Burney said, damn, better in the relationship than not. Gold. Okay. I almost thought that it was like you were, oh, well, that does it, like I'm out of this relationship. That's what you said. But yeah, damn, better in the relationship than not. Gold. Yeah, and that's what way too many people do. If not a toxic relationship like that, it's just that people are codependent in relationship. Instead of mutual growth, it's mutual holding each other back. Like many of the guys I used to spend time with, that was the thing. We're just making each other feel okay about being fucking losers, not doing anything of value, getting together, drinking beer, smoking weed, ordering junk food, eating crap, maybe going out on a bar, trying to hook up with girls or something. And that's not a good relationship. That's like, even if we are friends, we like each other, we're not actually helping each other grow. We're helping each other not grow. Helping each other be complacent or take back steps. Mo for Gains, do you think psychedelics can be beneficial for healing? So that came up on a stream recently too, and I absolutely think they can be. They have been for me personally. It's just that, a couple of reasons that why I prefer to talk about a thing like that on live streams, because it's always a little bit more intimate here. There's two things. It's a legal situation with some of these things. There are now these days, there are definitely things you can, you know, get around that even. But the second thing is that it's always hard to talk about things that there's a lot of nuance, and some people just don't even need to hear that psychedelics could be beneficial. They don't even need to think about the thing like that. But what I'll say about it is that it's a tool, like many other things. If you think psychedelics will be the cure for you, they just won't be. As soon as you put your faith in something outside of yourself, it's never gonna help. It's not that you go on a trip and now you're fixed. You know, you have to have a certain amount of wisdom before. You have to have a certain intention with this experience. And what I'll say is, what psychedelics often do is that, you know, they can shatter your ego, so that you see. It's like you get to see yourself from the like as if you were on the outside, because you don't have an ego. But of course you see on the inside because you're you. But you see what I mean? Without all these, you're not attached to your identity anymore. You can just kind of look at it, right? And that might give you some insights. It might clarify some things to you. But then when you come out of the trip, like, because it can feel like the job is just done. Because you're like, oh, I get it now. Oh, this is what I've been doing. Oh, this is what I need to do. And then you can feel like all happy about that. But then when you come back, slowly you're just gonna go back to your old self. So you really have to actively integrate whatever lesson you got from that. And so if you do this with respect, on a reasonable frequency, you know, I personally waited for years with doing that, until I knew I had a good reason. I'm just not curious to do something like that. And I had great use for it then. And then I've been very respectful with how I go about that. But so you see, it can be a tool, but it's often like, there's a good finishing point. It's like the psychedelic doesn't do the work or something. It assigns the homework. It's like you get to know what you need to change. Billy McBilly asked me, what drug was it? It's like, that's what I mean. I want to be a bit careful about saying things like that. It doesn't really matter, you know. I'll say this. The ones I know most about, and that I think are the best options probably, are like mushrooms, you know, psilocybin and LSD. But neither of these are legal in Sweden, so of course I wasn't here when I did that. More for gains. Yeah, oftentimes people who has a bad trip are ones that think it's a party drugs. Yeah, but another thing is also like a bad trip. Part of it is like supposed to be very uncomfortable sometimes. That, you know, part of it for people that you know, the ego wants control, right? So facing your need to be in control and having to just let the fuck go. You have a really uncomfortable experience. You just have to go with it. That in and of itself can be a very healing experience. To just realize that it isn't all up to you at all times, and let go and see that it was okay. And of course, just it can be tough. Some things you have to face with yourself can be really uncomfortable. So you see what I mean? Bad trip. I guess a bad trip would be, what I would really define as a bad trip is that it's a lasting bad effect afterwards. And that's the point. If you don't have respect for it, if you don't have the wisdom, if you don't have a true intention, that could happen. For me, it's pretty sure it was magic truffle. Was it? Oh, also magic truffles are completely legal to buy in all of EU countries. The ones I think you're talking about are definitely not legal to buy in Sweden. Billy McBilly. Do you think that's how I say it? Billy McBilly. But you're from the UK, if I recall correctly. I cannot say it in a good. I don't know how to say that. Yeah. I'll say this. Yeah, I'm from the UK, Northern Ireland. Yeah. Julian Bernie, this is exactly what I thought for my first half a dozen trips. Then I genuinely had a horrifying experience. know, what I said was what you thought. You know, it's interesting too, because let's say it's like a loophole. The thing is, shrooms are illegal, but truffles aren't, and they are both the same exact thing. We're lost, man. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I know some things you get around that. Oh, it's not legal to consume, but you could buy like the mushroom or the cactus. You know, I think it's as mescaline as the cactus. But I say this: there's been something in Sweden you can buy. It's like, you know, this. It's like with pro hormones, like with steroids, that they turn into a steroid in the body or something. There are certain. It's a loophole in the sense that there are certain substances you can buy that are legal because it's not the same, but they turn into the same in the body. And so lately there's been one. It's LSD, acid, right? It's called. I think the molecule is called 1S LSD. And it's legal to buy in Sweden, but it turns into LSD. Maybe these are the things, though. Like, some people really don't need to know about the thing like that. No, for games. When I was fat and had no attention from women, I thought when I get in shape, I'll be hooking up with girls all the time. But now, after getting in shape, the desire is completely gone. Am I missing out? No. No, because you gained what you were actually looking for all along, the love for yourself, you know. Hooking up with girls. Like I say, I'm not black and white and I don't judge people. I personally had to go through a phase of doing that and thinking that that was something I was supposed to be doing. And now I've learned that, what I was looking for with hooking up with these girls was really, you know, the validation from within that I never got. Because when I started getting that, the desire to just hook up with girls, not the sexual urge all over, or the desire to be with a woman in the end, but this hooking up thing, it went away, and I realized, it's because I get what I was trying to get from these girls, I get from myself now, and I could never get it from the outside, right? So I think it's the same for you, that you thought that you needed that, but you gained self-love in the process of losing all that weight. You know, both you love yourself for putting in that work for yourself, and yeah, for doing things, like both that you do something, you give yourself something, literally, right? You're doing something that's difficult for you, but also that you're living up to. You think probably that is a good thing to do. You actually like yourself now. So, because that's what a lot of people use girls hooking up with. Like, if it's not just like a random hedonist drug, like it can be, also, that's what people do. They try to feel good about themselves by hooking up with girls. Julian Burney says, but I was in the woods by myself, lol. And yeah, no, but I've actually done most of those experiences by myself in the woods. Mo for gains. Yeah, I just think also sex without love is kind of empty and pointless. That's exactly it, man. That's how it is. So I'm really starting to need to pee, so I'll start moving back. But since I can have you with me, let's see. Yeah, it's perfect timing actually, because I'll then be able to go to the bathroom and then go to this restaurant. So it's perfect timing. It's been a great stream though, guys. See, I don't forget anything. I have my empty bottle. You know, don't leave trash around. That's a trash people do that. Billy McBilly said goodbye. Well, I'll stay here for a few minutes, just walk with you here. Okay. Maybe I'll just turn it off, because everyone is saying goodbye. Don't forget, okay, I have to go pack my stuff for a trip to Italy tomorrow. It was nice chatting with you, bro. Brother, take care. Yeah, well, the same to you, man. Yeah, half the guys left. Billy said, yeah. No, I'm gonna turn it off soon. I'll just say, I appreciate you too, Mo for Gains, and thanks for today, Jaser, I'm sure. Bill McBilly said, yeah, goodbye, man. And why? Peace, brothers. Peace, brothers. Great stream. We'll see when the nice. Tomorrow I can't, because I come home too late. But well, we'll see. I'll see you in videos and streams soon enough. Peace, guys. Later, man. Julian Burney. Later. Peace, bros.